Trell's claws tapped against the datapad as he read the assignment for the third time. Military Assessment Division wanted him on Callisto, one of the human moons. His job was simple. Watch their soldiers train, record everything, file a report. Nothing complicated. Nothing dangerous. He had spent 12 cycles analyzing species across 4 sectors. The Vren warriors with their pack tactics. The Soloth heavy infantry with their impenetrable armor. The Quillen shock troops who could survive in hard vacuum. Every species had something that made them special in warfare. Humans were different. The Coalition had kept them locked in their home system for 40 years. The file said they were too aggressive, too unpredictable. Their history was filled with wars that lasted generations. They fought over land, resources, ideas, even colors of fabric. Some conflicts killed millions. The assessment teams had labeled them as controlled threats, but they had never actually watched human soldiers work. All the reports came from studying their history files and monitoring their communications. Now the Council wanted real data. They wanted someone to see how humans trained, how they organized, how they fought when someone was watching. That someone was Trell. The transport ship dropped him at the observation facility 3 days later. The structure sat on Callisto's surface like a gray mushroom, half buried in ancient ice. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the training grounds spread across the frozen landscape. Obstacle courses, firing ranges, simulation buildings. Everything looked standard for a military base. A human female waited for him at the airlock. She wore a dark uniform with colored patches on the shoulders. Her hair was pulled back tight against her head. When she smiled, Trell noticed her teeth were flat except for slightly pointed corners. Predator teeth, but modified for other foods too. Observer Trell, welcome to Callisto Station. I'm Commander Rodriguez. I'll be your liaison during your stay. She extended her hand. Trell knew about this human custom. He reached out with his primary manipulator and grasped her hand briefly. Her grip was firm but not crushing. Controlled strength. Thank you for accommodating my presence, Commander. Happy to have you. We don't get many visitors out here. Your quarters are ready, and I've scheduled the first observation session for tomorrow morning. That gives you time to review our training protocols and rest after your journey. She led him through corridors that smelled of recycled air and something else, something sharp and clean. Later he learned humans called it disinfectant. They were very concerned about contamination. His quarters were small but comfortable. A sleeping platform, a desk, a waste facility modified for his biology. The window looked out over the main training field. Even now, in the dim light of distant Jupiter, he could see humans moving in formation, running in groups. Their breath created small clouds in the thin atmosphere their generators maintained outside. Trell accessed the facility network and pulled up the training schedule. Tomorrow's exercise was labeled Basic Combat Maneuvers Squad Level. The description was minimal. 2 teams of 8 humans each would engage in simulated combat within the asteroid field recreation zone. Weapons would fire marker rounds instead of lethal ammunition. Objective was territory control. He had seen similar exercises with other species. Usually they were direct and simple. 2 forces met. The stronger or smarter one won. The other retreated or surrendered. Sometimes they were rehearsed so many times they looked like dances instead of fights. The next morning, Rodriguez collected him early. She carried 2 containers of dark liquid that steamed in the cold air. Brought you some tea. Wasn't sure what temperature you prefer, so I kept it mild. She handed him 1 container. Trell accepted it carefully. The gesture was unexpected. Most species kept clear professional distance during assessment periods. He tested the liquid. It was pleasant. Warm but not hot. Slightly bitter with sweet undertones, thank you. This is good. Glad you like it. Come on. The teams are assembling now. The observation platform hung suspended above the training zone. Below, a massive hangar had been modified to simulate an asteroid field. Dozens of irregular rocks floated in the space held in position by hidden projectors. Some were small as cargo containers. Others were large as buildings. They drifted in slow patterns, creating an ever-changing maze. 16 humans gathered at opposite ends of the hangar. They wore bulky suits with helmets that hid their faces. Each carried weapons that looked heavy, even accounting for the low-gravity environment. They checked equipment, tested communications, moved in ways that seemed casual but purposeful. Team Alpha, are you ready? Rodriguez spoke into a communicator. Ready, Commander. A male voice answered. Team Striker confirmation? Confirmed. Ready to start? A different voice, female this time. Rules are standard. Marker hits to torso or head count as kills. Limb hits reduce mobility. No actual contact strikes. Exercise ends when one team controls the central platform for 2 consecutive minutes, or when all members of one team are neutralized. Begin on my mark. The humans moved to starting positions. Through the observation window, Trell could see them crouching behind cover points. They became very still. He noticed their helmets turned frequently, checking angles and sightlines. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Nothing happened for almost 30 seconds. Trell leaned closer to the window. Both teams remained hidden. No one rushed forward. No one fired blindly into the open space. Then Team Alpha's left flank moved. 3 humans pushed forward using a large asteroid for cover. Team Striker responded immediately, 2 members taking elevated positions on a rotating stone. Weapons fire began, bright blue markers streaking through the space. But something was wrong. The movement patterns were not what Trell expected. Humans were not charging directly at each other. They were flowing like water around the obstacles, using the rotating asteroids to break line of sight, coordinating their positions without obvious signals. One human from Team Striker got hit in the leg. The marker round splashed blue across the suit. Immediately, 2 teammates moved to provide cover while the injured one retreated. They did not leave anyone behind. Trell watched closely, his earlier assumptions cracking like thin ice. These were not mindless, aggressive fighters. These were not primitive warriors who relied on strength and fury. These were professionals, and the exercise had barely begun. The combat simulation had been running for 12 minutes when Trell realized he had stopped taking notes. His data pad sat forgotten on the observation platform railing. Below, the human teams moved through the asteroid field with a coordination that seemed impossible for a species the Coalition had dismissed as brutal and simple. Team Alpha had split into 2 groups. One trio provided covering fire, while a pair of humans used magnetic grapples to swing between floating rocks. They were not just moving. They were using the environment itself as a weapon. When a large asteroid rotated past, they timed their movement to stay hidden behind it, emerging only when they had clear advantage. Team Striker adapted instantly. Their elevated position became a liability when Alpha flanked them using a route no one expected. 2 Striker members had to abandon their perch, dropping down to lower asteroids. As they fell, they twisted their bodies and fired backward at pursuing opponents. One marker round hit an Alpha soldier in the shoulder. The hit human's arm went limp, simulating injury, but the soldier switched their weapon to the other hand without stopping. Observer Trell, "You're very quiet." Rodriguez stood beside him, watching her soldiers work. "What do you think so far?" Trell struggled to find words. "They adapt quickly. That's one of our strengths. No battle plan survives contact with the enemy. So we train our people to think, not just follow orders." On the field below, something unexpected happened. A Striker soldier's suit malfunctioned. Red lights flashed on the helmet. The soldier stopped moving, floating near a medium-sized asteroid. Immediately, the exercise should have continued. One soldier down meant advantage for the other team, but Team Alpha held their fire. 3 of their members actually moved to create a defensive perimeter around the disabled soldier, while others signaled a halt. Exercise pause. Technical failure on Striker 5. Medical and tech teams respond. Rodriguez spoke calmly into her communicator. 2 humans in different colored suits emerged from side doors, using thruster packs to reach the disabled soldier. They worked quickly, checking life support, running diagnostics. Within 90 seconds, the soldier was moving again, giving a thumbs-up gesture. False alarm. Sensor glitch. Striker 5 is functional. Teams return to positions before pause. Resume in 30 seconds. The teams moved back to where they had been. No one complained. No one seemed frustrated by the interruption. They simply reset and waited. "You stopped the exercise for a malfunction?" Trell asked. Rodriguez looked at him with an expression he could not read. "We stopped because a person was potentially in danger. Training is important. Safety is more important. No simulation is worth someone's life." The exercise resumed. This time both teams seemed more aggressive. Marker rounds flew in greater numbers. Humans pushed forward, taking risks they had not taken before. Team Alpha attempted to rush the central platform, but Team Striker had anticipated the move. They had positioned 2 soldiers in a concealed spot behind a cluster of small asteroids. When Alpha charged forward, Stryker's hidden members opened fire from the side. 3 Alpha soldiers took hits in quick succession. Blue markers splashed across their torsos. They were eliminated according to the rules, but the remaining Alpha members did not retreat. Instead, they pushed harder, using their eliminated teammates' bodies as cover. The eliminated soldiers could not fight, but they could still physically block some shots. It was not against the rules. It was creative thinking. Team Stryker lost 2 more soldiers in the exchange. Now both teams were reduced, 4 against 5. The central platform remained empty, still the ultimate objective. Trell noticed something else. The eliminated soldiers did not leave the field. They floated near the edges watching. Some were clearly communicating with their active teammates even though their weapons were disabled. They were sharing observations, pointing out enemy positions, still contributing however they could. Are they allowed to do that? Trell asked. In training, yes. In real combat, if you're wounded but conscious, you can still help your team. We don't believe in giving up just because you personally can't fight anymore. The final push came from an unexpected direction. Team Stryker had been defending, holding position, waiting for Team Alpha to make mistakes. But then they suddenly charged forward all at once. 5 humans moving in a tight formation, using a large rotating asteroid as a battering ram. They pushed it with coordinated thruster bursts, accelerating it toward Alpha's position. Team Alpha scattered. They had to. The asteroid was too large to hide behind and moving too fast to avoid otherwise. As they scattered, Stryker picked them off one by one. Precise shots. No wasted ammunition. Within 40 seconds, only 1 Alpha soldier remained. That soldier did something Trell did not expect. Instead of surrendering or hiding, they made a direct run for the central platform. Alone. Against 5 enemies. The odds were impossible. Stryker focused all fire on the lone soldier. Markers hit the suit repeatedly. Legs, arms, torso. The soldier was technically eliminated 3 times over, but they had enough momentum. The body coasted forward, already eliminated, and crashed into the central platform railing. Dead by the rules, but having reached the objective anyway. Exercise complete. Team Stryker wins by elimination. Good work, both teams. Rodriguez's voice carried approval. The soldiers gathered in the center, winners and losers together. They removed their helmets. Faces appeared. Some were smiling. Some were sweating. All of them looked satisfied. They talked quickly, reviewing what happened, discussing what they learned. The soldier who made the final desperate run was surrounded by teammates and opponents alike. They were not mocking the failure. They were praising the attempt. Rodriguez turned to Trell. What did you observe? Trell looked at his empty data pad. I observed that everything in the Coalition files about human warfare is wrong. These soldiers do not fight like angry primitives. They fight like... He paused, searching for the right word. Like what? Rodriguez prompted. Like they have been doing this for a very long time. Like warfare is not just violence to them. It is a skill. A science. Rodriguez nodded slowly. We've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We've learned a few things. Come on, I want to show you something else. Our history archives. You need to understand where this all comes from. Trell followed her from the observation platform, his mind already composing the report. The Coalition needed to know. Humans were not the threat everyone assumed. They were something far more dangerous. They were competent. The archive room was smaller than Trell expected. Walls covered with screens displaying human historical data. Rodriguez gestured to a comfortable chair designed for multiple body types. Trell settled into it while she activated the main display panel. Before you write your report, you should understand what shaped us. The Coalition files talk about human aggression like it's a disease. They don't explain why we developed the way we did. She touched a control. The screen filled with an image of Earth from space. Blue oceans. Green and brown continents. White clouds swirling in patterns. Beautiful world, Trell observed. Deadly world, Rodriguez corrected. Let me show you. The display changed. Now it showed humans in thick furs, carrying primitive weapons made of stone and wood. They moved through deep snow, hunting a massive creature covered in brown hair. The creature was easily 4 times their size. This is 12,000 years ago. These humans had no advanced technology, no energy weapons, no shields. They hunted animals that could kill them with one strike. They survived by working together and refusing to quit. The hunting scene played out. The humans coordinated their attack with nothing but hand signals and experience. They wounded the massive creature, then tracked it for hours through freezing conditions. When it finally fell, they harvested every part. Meat for food, bones for tools, hide for shelter. They lived in a world that tried to kill them every day: predators, weather, disease, starvation, other humans. Survival meant being tougher than the challenges. Rodriguez pulled up another scene. This one showed humans in metal armor, standing in tight formations. They held shields and long spears. Thousands of them faced another army across an open field. When the armies met, the sound was terrible. Metal on metal, screams and shouts. But the formations held. Soldiers who fell were dragged back by their companions. Lines reformed even as people died. This is 2,000 years ago. They learned to fight in organized groups. Discipline, training, tactics. They studied warfare like your people study star navigation. Trell watched, fascinated and disturbed. The battle was brutal but not chaotic. Every movement had purpose. Units supported each other. When one section of the line weakened, others shifted to compensate. The display jumped forward in time. Now humans had primitive firearms, black powder weapons that produced smoke and noise. Two armies faced each other across grassy fields, standing in neat rows. When the order came, they fired together. The front ranks disappeared in clouds of smoke. When the smoke cleared, dozens had fallen. But the survivors reloaded and fired again. Why do they stand in lines like that? Trell asked. They are making themselves easy targets, because their weapons were inaccurate. Volume of fire was more effective than individual accuracy, and standing your ground under fire showed courage. It was psychological warfare as much as physical. The historical progression continued. Trench warfare in muddy fields. Soldiers living underground for months while artillery pounded the surface. Aerial combat with primitive aircraft. Pilots fighting in open cockpits. Amphibious assaults against fortified beaches. Humans running forward despite horrific casualties. Each scene showed humans fighting in conditions that would break most species. But they kept going. They adapted. They learned. Rodriguez stopped on a particular scene. Soldiers in strange uniforms crawling through dense jungle. The heat looked oppressive. Rain fell constantly. Insects swarmed. The soldiers looked exhausted, sick, but they moved forward anyway. This conflict lasted 20 years. It was fought in terrain where simply existing was difficult. Diseases, hostile wildlife, weather that destroyed equipment. They fought anyway. Did they win? Trell asked. That depends on how you define winning. They achieved some objectives. Lost others. But the point is endurance. Humans don't quit just because conditions are hard. We're built for hard conditions. The display shifted to space combat. Human ships engaging pirate vessels near asteroid mining operations. The tactics looked similar to what Trell had seen in the training exercise. Creative use of environment. Coordinated strikes. Willingness to take damage to protect civilians. This is from 15 years ago. We'd barely entered space and we were already adapting our combat doctrine to three-dimensional warfare. No gravity. No atmosphere. We figured it out. Rodriguez pulled up a split screen. One side showed the primitive hunters from earlier. The other showed modern human soldiers in advanced armor. 12,000 years of evolution. Not biological evolution, tactical evolution. We learn from every fight, every mistake, every victory. It's in our culture now. Our literature. Our games. Our children play at being soldiers before they can read. That sounds dangerous, Trell said quietly. It would be if that's all we taught them. But we also teach them why we fight. Not for conquest. Not for glory. We fight to protect, to defend, to ensure peace. She closed the historical files and pulled up current footage. The screen showed human rescue teams pulling trapped miners from a collapsed tunnel. The same intensity, the same refusal to quit, but directed at saving lives instead of taking them. Every human soldier is trained in medical care. Every ship carries rescue equipment. Every base has disaster response protocols. We apply the same determination to saving people that we apply to fighting. Trell processed this information slowly. The coalition files had focused on human violence without understanding the context. They saw a species that fought constantly without asking why. You fight because your world taught you to fight, he said. We fight because our world taught us that survival requires strength. But we're not mindless about it. We turned warfare into a science so we could end conflicts faster. We study history so we don't repeat mistakes. We train constantly so we're ready for threats. What threats? The coalition has maintained peace for 300 cycles. Rodriguez gave him a look that made his scales prickle. Peace maintained by strength. Your coalition patrols are effective because pirates and raiders know they'll face consequences. But what happens when something comes along that doesn't fear consequences? Something that can't be reasoned with? You think something like that exists? The universe is big. We've barely explored any of it. History teaches us that new threats always emerge. When they do, someone needs to be ready to stand between them and everyone else. She stood up, stretching her back. That's why we train like this. Why we study warfare. Why we maintain our edge even when there's peace. Trell looked at the blank screen, his mind replaying everything he had seen. The training exercise. The historical battles. The cultural dedication to martial excellence. The coalition is afraid of you, he admitted. I know, but they shouldn't be. We're not their enemy. We just want to be their ally when the real enemy shows up. And if no enemy comes, Rodriguez smiled. Then we'll have wasted a lot of time training for nothing. But I'd rather be prepared and wrong than unprepared and right. Wouldn't you? Trell had no answer to that. He thought of his own people, comfortable and safe under coalition protection. They had not fought a war in 6 generations. Their military was ceremonial. If something truly dangerous appeared, they would have no idea how to respond. But humans would know. Humans had been preparing for exactly that scenario for their entire existence. Tomorrow, Rodriguez said, I'll show you our advanced combat scenarios, the ones designed for real threats. You should see what we're actually capable of when we stop holding back. That night, Trell could not rest. His mind kept returning to the images of humans fighting through impossible conditions, never quitting, always adapting, always learning. The coalition files called them dangerous primitives. But they were wrong. Humans were not primitive. They were experienced. And there was a significant difference between the two. Dawn on Callisto meant Jupiter rose above the horizon, casting orange light across the frozen surface. Trell watched from his quarters window as human soldiers assembled near a different section of the training grounds. This area looked more severe than the asteroid simulation hangar. Reinforced walls. Multiple airlocks. Warning signs in several languages, including Galactic Common. Rodriguez arrived exactly on time. She handed him an environment suit much heavier than the standard observation gear. You'll need this. We're going into the deep simulation chamber. It replicates hostile planet conditions. How hostile? Trell asked, examining the thick suit material. Extreme temperature variance. Toxic atmosphere.
High gravity.
Aggressive native fauna simulations. The kind of world where most species would die within hours. She said it casually, like discussing weather. They walked through 3 separate airlocks before reaching the observation bunker. Thick, transparent barriers separated them from the training environment beyond. Through the barriers, Trell saw a landscape that looked like nightmares given form. The terrain was rocky and uneven. Steam vents released yellowish gas at irregular intervals. Strange plant life grew in twisted shapes, their surfaces glistening with what looked like acid. The lighting was dim, simulating a world far from its star. Temperature readings on the wall display showed numbers that made Trell's blood cold. 40 degrees Celsius in some spots, -20 in others, sometimes both extremes within meters of each other. This is based on survey data from failed colony attempts, Rodriguez explained. Several species tried to settle worlds like this. None succeeded. We wanted to know if humans could. 16 soldiers entered the environment through a reinforced airlock. Their suits were different from the training exercise gear. Heavier, more sealed, but still lighter than what Trell wore in the observation bunker. Those suits provide minimal protection. If this were a real environment, they'd have maybe 6 hours before critical system failures. Rodriguez pointed at the display showing each soldier's vital signs. We're training them to complete objectives faster than that. The soldiers moved out in a tactical formation. Immediately, the environment fought them. One soldier stepped near a steam vent. Superheated gas erupted. The soldier rolled away, suit scorched but intact. No panic, no shouting. Just smooth movement to safety while teammates provided cover. Cover from what? Trell asked. I see no enemy forces. Rodriguez pointed at the twisted plant life. Watch. One of the plants suddenly unfolded. What Trell had thought were leaves became appendages. Sharp, fast. The thing launched itself at the nearest soldier. The soldier blocked with their rifle, and the weapon's barrel was scored by whatever acid the plant creature secreted. Other soldiers fired immediately, hitting the creature until it stopped moving. Biological hazards. Some worlds evolve aggressive life. We need soldiers who can handle it. More plant creatures emerged. They seemed to react to movement and sound. The soldiers adapted their tactics instantly. They moved slower, quieter. When they had to fight, they did so with quick bursts rather than sustained fire. Efficient, conservative with ammunition. The team reached what looked like a cave entrance. Half of them set up a perimeter while the others entered. Trell watched the helmet camera feeds on the bunker displays. Inside the cave, the temperature dropped dramatically. Ice formed on the walls despite the toxic atmosphere. The soldiers' breath was visible even through their suit recyclers. Something moved in the darkness. Large. The camera lights caught reflections from multiple eyes. A creature emerged that stood twice the height of the tallest human. It had too many limbs and a mouth that opened sideways. The soldiers in the cave did not run. They fell back in formation, maintaining sight lines, putting obstacles between themselves and the creature. When it charged, they fired at its legs. Not the body. Not the head. The legs. The creature stumbled. Still dangerous, but slower. One soldier threw something that made a loud noise and bright light. The creature turned toward it. In that moment of distraction, the soldiers retreated deeper into the cave system, collapsing the entrance behind them with controlled explosives. They trapped themselves in there, Trell said. They completed their objective. The mission was to retrieve samples from inside the cave system. Fighting that creature would waste time and ammunition. Better to go around it. The cave team navigated through narrow tunnels. They found what they were looking for, some kind of mineral deposit glowing faintly in the darkness. They collected samples quickly and searched for another exit. Meanwhile, outside, the perimeter team faced a different problem. A pack of smaller creatures approached, fast-moving. Pack hunters. The soldiers formed a defensive circle back to back. When the creatures attacked, they came from all directions at once. The fight was brutal and efficient. Humans pivoted, covering each other's blind spots. They called out targets, shared ammunition when someone ran low. One soldier's weapon jammed. Without hesitation, they drew a blade and defended their section with that instead. No panic, just adaptation. The cave team emerged from a different exit point, having navigated through the underground system using handheld scanners. They rejoined the perimeter team, just as the creature attack intensified. Combined firepower drove the pack away. Mission complete. All personnel returned to extraction point. Rodriguez spoke into her communicator. The soldiers moved back across the hostile terrain. They were tired. Trell could see it in the way they moved. But they maintained formation. Stayed alert. When another steam vent erupted, they avoided it smoothly. When another plant creature attacked, they eliminated it without breaking stride. Back in the observation bunker, Rodriguez pulled up performance data. Average completion time for this scenario is 4 hours. That team did it in 3.5. No casualties. All objectives met. Minimal ammunition expenditure. How is this possible? Trell asked. That environment should kill them. It would kill them eventually. But we're from Earth. Our home world is almost as hostile as that simulation. We evolved in an environment that constantly tried to kill us.
High gravity.
Extreme weather. Predatory wildlife. Diseases that wiped out entire populations. We're not adapted to paradise worlds. We're adapted to survive anywhere. Trell thought about his own home world. Gentle climate. Calm weather. Herbivorous wildlife. Evolution had made his people suited for comfort. Earth had made humans suited for survival. The Coalition calls Earth a death world, Rodriguez continued. They mean it as a warning. Like it's a bad thing. But it's only bad if you're not from there. For us, it's home. And everywhere else in the galaxy is easier by comparison. She pulled up a comparison chart. Earth's gravity compared to galactic standard. 20% higher. Earth's temperature variance. Twice as extreme. Earth's atmospheric oxygen content. High enough to support rapid combustion. Earth's native predator count. Off the scale. Your people evolved in a garden. Mine evolved in a battlefield. That's not judgment, just fact. But it means when things go wrong, when environments become hostile, when threats emerge, humans have instincts and abilities that others don't. The soldiers were removing their suits in the decontamination area. They looked exhausted but satisfied. Some were laughing about close calls during the exercise. Others were reviewing their performance, discussing what they could improve. They enjoyed that, Trell observed with disbelief. They're proud of what they can do. Pride and competence is a powerful motivator. We push ourselves because we know we can handle it. And because we know someday someone might need us to handle it for real. Trell watched the humans and thought about the galaxy. So many species. So many worlds. Most were like his own people, adapted to specific comfortable conditions, specialists in their own environments. Humans were generalists, adapted to survive anywhere, to fight anything, to persist when others would fail. Tomorrow, Rodriguez said quietly, there's something else you should see. Real combat footage. Not training. Not simulation. The actual thing. Then you'll understand what we really are. Trell agreed, though part of him was afraid of what he would witness. These training exercises were impressive, intimidating even. But training was controlled, safe, real. Combat would show the truth of human capability without any filters or safety measures. He suspected that truth would be harder to watch than anything he had seen so far, and he suspected it would change everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The alarm sounded at 300 station time. Trell woke instantly, his survival instincts triggering before his mind fully processed the noise. Red emergency lights pulsed in his quarters. Through the window he saw humans running toward the main hangar, their movements quick but organized. His door opened. Rodriguez stood there in full combat gear, her face serious. Get to the command center now, this is not a drill. Trell followed her through corridors filled with rushing personnel. Everyone moved with purpose. No one panicked. At the command center, multiple screens showed a situation developing in real time. Pirate attack on mining station Gamma 7. 23 miners trapped. Coalition security forces are 40 minutes away. Human rapid response team is launching in 3 minutes. An officer reported, his hands moving across control panels. Rodriguez turned to Trell. You wanted to see real combat. You're about to get your chance. Stay in this bunker. Watch everything. Record everything. Understand that what you're about to witness is not for a report. It's so you know what humans actually do when lives are at stake. 3 human ships launched from the hangar. Small, fast, they accelerated away from Callisto with speed that seemed excessive. The command center tracked them, displaying their approach vector to the mining station. 7 pirate vessels, medium-class raiders. They've already disabled the station's defenses and are cutting through the main hull. Miners have retreated to the core shelter, but it won't hold long. Another officer provided updates. Trell watched the tactical display. The human ships were outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Their vessels were smaller. The pirates had them outgunned. Why are they not waiting for coalition reinforcements? Trell asked. An officer glanced at him. Because 23 people will be dead before reinforcements arrive. We don't wait when we can act. The human ships reached the mining station 12 minutes after launch. Trell watched through multiple camera feeds. The pirate vessels were crude but effective, their weapons still active and pointed at the station's core where the miners hid. This is Commander Rodriguez to pirate vessels. Cease your attack immediately and withdraw. You have 30 seconds to comply. The response came in broken galactic common. Human ships retreat or we kill hostages. You are outnumbered. You cannot win. Rodriguez's expression did not change. You have 20 seconds. The pirates opened fire on the human ships. Bright energy weapons traced paths through space. The human vessels scattered, their movements erratic and hard to predict. They returned fire, but seemed to be aiming at the pirate weapon systems rather than the ship's cores. Disable, don't destroy, Rodriguez said into her communicator. Priority is hostage safety. The battle was unlike anything Trell had seen in training. This was real. The pirates fought viciously, trying to position themselves between the humans and the station. They knew the humans would not risk hitting the structure where the miners hid, but the humans found angles anyway. They used the asteroid field around the station as cover. They coordinated their attacks so that when one ship drew fire, the others struck from different vectors. 3 minutes into the engagement, 2 pirate vessels were disabled, drifting with dead weapon systems. The remaining pirates changed tactics. One ship moved directly against the station hull, using it as a shield. We have cutting torches on the shelter door. Back away or we breach and kill everyone inside. Rodriguez's response was cold and calm. Breach teams, you are authorized, execute. Trell did not understand at first. Then he saw them. Human soldiers in armored suits launching from concealed positions on their ships. They had been hiding, waiting for exactly this moment. They crossed the space between vessels using personal thrusters, moving in a formation that kept them covered by their own ship's weapons. The pirates realized too late what was happening. They tried to target the boarding teams, but the humans were too small, too fast, moving unpredictably. Several made it to the pirate ship's hulls. They attached breaching charges to airlocks. Simultaneously, the human ships intensified their attack on the remaining pirate vessels. It was a coordinated strike, space and boarding elements working as one force. The breaching charges detonated. Human soldiers poured into the pirate ships. Trell watched through helmet cameras. The fighting inside was close and brutal. No room for mistakes. The humans moved through corridors, clearing rooms, neutralizing pirates who refused to surrender. One group of pirates tried to execute their threat. They reached the shelter door and started cutting through. The human boarding teams were still 3 corridors away. Miners, get away from the door. North wall now! Rodriguez's voice cut through all channels. The miners obeyed instantly. They pressed against the far wall. 5 seconds later, an explosion blew through the south wall of the shelter. Not the door the pirates were cutting. A different wall entirely. Human soldiers came through the breach, weapons ready. They formed a protective barrier between the miners and the door the pirates were cutting. When the pirates finally broke through, they found themselves facing prepared human soldiers instead of helpless miners. The fight lasted 8 seconds. The pirates surrendered. Across all 7 vessels, the pattern repeated. Human boarding teams secured each ship. Pirates who fought were stopped. Pirates who surrendered were secured and treated fairly. Within 18 minutes of the first shot being fired, the situation was resolved. No miners died. 3 pirates were injured but receiving medical care. The human teams had taken no casualties. Coalition security forces arrived 22 minutes later. They found the situation completely under control. Human medics were treating injured pirates. Engineers were repairing the mining station's critical systems. The miners were shaken but safe. Trell watched it all from the command center. When it was over, Rodriguez removed her helmet and sat down heavily. That's what we do, she said quietly. That's who we are when it matters. You were outnumbered, Trell said. The tactical situation was against you. Standard doctrine would suggest waiting for support. Standard doctrine doesn't account for human doctrine. We don't wait when people are dying. We act, we adapt. We find a way to win even when the odds say we shouldn't. The command center staff was already writing reports, logging every detail of the engagement. It was routine for them. Another successful operation. But for Trell, it was a revelation. He had seen humans train. He had seen them fight simulations. Now he had seen them in actual combat, lives on the line, making decisions in real time. They had been professional, controlled, precise. They used overwhelming force when needed and restraint when appropriate. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible. They protected hostages even when it made their own mission harder. This was not the behavior of aggressive primitives. This was the behavior of disciplined warriors who understood exactly what they were doing and why. The coalition files, Trell began, are wrong, Rodriguez finished. They see our history of warfare and assume we're violent. They don't see that we study violence so we can control it. We train for combat so we can end it quickly. We maintain our edge so others don't have to. She pulled up the casualty reports. 0 miners killed. All pirates accounted for. Human team returned safely. We're not monsters. We're protectors. There's a difference. Trell looked at the screens showing human soldiers helping repair the mining station. The same hands that had fought so effectively minutes before were now carefully welding hull plates and checking life support systems. I need to revise my report, he said. Yes, Rodriguez agreed. You do. Because everything the coalition thinks it knows about humanity is based on fear and misunderstanding. We're not your enemy. We're the ones who stand between everyone else and the things that would hurt them. Even when it means fighting against impossible odds. Especially then. Because someone has to, and we've learned how. Trell spent the rest of that day reviewing the combat footage frame by frame, analyzing tactics, studying decisions, understanding the doctrine that let 16 humans in 3 small ships defeat 7 larger vessels and save 23 lives without losing anyone. He was beginning to understand what humans truly were. Not the threat the coalition feared. Not the primitives the files described. They were survivors who had turned survival into an art form. And the galaxy had no idea how much it needed them. Trell's quarters had become a workspace. Datapads covered every surface. Video files played on multiple screens. Reports, tactical analyses, historical documents. Everything he had observed over the past weeks. Everything that contradicted 40 years of coalition assessments about humanity. His claws moved across the primary datapad, writing and rewriting the same section for the 4th time. How did he explain what he had learned? How did he make the Coalition Council understand that their fear of humanity was both justified and completely wrong? The door chimed. Rodriguez entered carrying 2 containers of the tea he had grown to appreciate. "You've been in here for 16 hours. Thought you might need this." She set one container beside him. "Thank you." Trell took it gratefully. The warmth helped him focus. "I am struggling with my report. Everything I write sounds insufficient. What's the core problem? The Coalition sees human military capability as a threat. They are correct that humans are dangerous in combat. But they are wrong about what that danger means. I cannot find words that convey this distinction." Rodriguez sat down looking at his screens. "May I?" Trell gestured permission. She read his draft, her expression thoughtful. "You're trying to convince them we're safe. That's the wrong approach. We're not safe. We're powerful. We're skilled. We're relentless. Those things don't change. What changes is whose side we're on." Trell considered this. "You are saying the Coalition should not fear human capability. They should fear not having access to it." "Exactly. Look at it strategically. Right now, humans are confined to our solar system. We're training, building, learning, getting better at warfare every day. If the Coalition maintains the restrictions, what happens when we eventually decide we've had enough? Or when some external threat appears that requires human-level combat capability? You would become the threat the Coalition fears. Or the allies they need. Depends entirely on how they treat us now." She pointed at one of his screens showing the mining station rescue. "We didn't save those miners because they were human. We saved them because they needed saving. That's who we are." "We protect," Trell began typing, incorporating this perspective. His report was not about convincing the Council that humans were harmless. It was about showing them that human military capability was a resource, not just a risk. "There is another problem," Trell said. "Many Council species will read this report and feel inadequate. Your capabilities exceed most galactic militaries. This may create resentment. That's not our goal. We don't want to replace anyone's security forces. We want to supplement them. Humans are good at certain things. Combat in hostile environments. Rapid response. Unconventional tactics. Other species are good at different things. The Quillen have better armor technology. The Vren have superior sensors. The Solith are more durable. Together, a combined force would be stronger than any single species." Trell wrote faster now, the ideas flowing clearly. He detailed human capabilities but framed them as complementary to existing Coalition forces. He emphasized human willingness to integrate, to share knowledge, to fight alongside rather than instead of other species. His report included video evidence, the training exercises showing adaptability, the historical archives demonstrating learning, the mining station rescue proving capability under pressure. Each section built the case that humanity's military strength was something the Coalition needed to embrace, not contain. "What about the cultural aspects?" Rodriguez asked. "Did you explain why we fight?" Trell pulled up a new section. "I wrote that human warfare evolved from necessity, that your homeworld shaped you into survivors, that you study combat not because you love violence but because you understand its consequences and want to minimize them." "Good. That's important. Some species think we enjoy war. We don't. We're just good at it because we had to be. There's a difference between being capable of violence and being violent." Trell paused his writing. "When I first arrived, I expected to find aggressive primitives. Soldiers who fought with strength and rage. Instead, I found professionals who fight with precision and purpose. This shocked me, because the Coalition underestimated us. They looked at our history and saw the violence. They didn't see the learning, the adaptation, the gradual refinement of warfare from brutal necessity into controlled science. There is a human phrase," Trell said, remembering something from the historical archives. "If you want peace, prepare for war." That's it exactly. We maintain our military capability because we hope we never need it. But if the need arises, we're ready. That readiness is what keeps the peace. Trell finished the main body of his report. Now came the difficult part. The recommendations. What should the coalition do about humanity? He wrote carefully. First recommendation, lift the containment restrictions. Allow humans to participate in galactic society as full members. Second, integrate human forces into coalition military structure. Start with advisory roles and joint training exercises. Third, establish cultural exchange programs so other species could learn about Earth and understand what shaped humanity. Fourth recommendation was the boldest. Create a rapid response force composed primarily of humans, designed to handle situations that required their specific capabilities. Hostile environment operations, combat rescue, unconventional warfare. Let humans do what they were best at, in service to the greater galactic community. You think the Council will approve this? Rodriguez asked, reading over his shoulder. I do not know, but I have documented everything. They cannot ignore the evidence. Human capability is real. The question is whether the coalition will see it as an opportunity or continue seeing it as a threat. Trell added a final section. A warning. If the coalition maintained its current policy, humanity would eventually break free of the restrictions through necessity or frustration. Better to embrace human participation now, on terms that benefited everyone, than to force a confrontation later. When will you submit it? Rodriguez asked. Tomorrow. I want to review it one more time. Trell looked at the screens, at all the evidence he had gathered. This will change things. One way or another, changes are overdue. We've been patient. We've followed the restrictions. We've proven we can be trusted. Now it's time for the coalition to decide if they want us as allies, or if they prefer to keep treating us like a problem to be contained. 3 days later, Trell stood in the observation platform one last time. His transport was scheduled to depart in 2 hours. He watched human soldiers running training exercises on the surface. They moved with the same precision and purpose he had observed on his first day. But now he understood what he was seeing. These were not threats. These were guardians. Warriors shaped by a hostile world, trained to protect rather than conquer, ready to stand between danger and those who needed defending. His report was submitted. 43 pages of observations, analysis, and recommendations. He had included classified combat footage, training records, historical context, everything the Council needed to make an informed decision. Rodriguez joined him on the platform. Safe journey. Observer Trell, I hope your report is well received. As do I. The galaxy needs what humanity offers. I hope the Council is wise enough to see it. And if they're not, then history will judge them poorly. Because threats will emerge. They always do. And when they come, the galaxy will need warriors who know how to fight in impossible conditions against overwhelming odds. Warriors who refuse to quit. Warriors who protect others at risk to themselves. Warriors like us. Exactly like you. Trell gathered his belongings. Thank you for your hospitality and your honesty. You showed me the truth rather than what I expected to see. That's what allies do. They trust each other with the truth. 4 months later, the Coalition Council voted. The restrictions on humanity were lifted. Integration protocols began immediately. Human advisors were assigned to coalition military units. Joint training exercises commenced. Cultural exchanges opened, and Trell received a new assignment. Liaison officer to the 1st Combined Human Coalition Rapid Response Unit. His recommendation had been implemented. His report had changed policy. He arrived at the joint base on a coalition station near the Galactic Rim. Human and alien soldiers trained together in the hangars, shared meals in the common areas, learned from each other. Rodriguez was there, now commanding the human contingent. She greeted Trell with genuine warmth. Welcome to the team, Liaison Trell. Ready to see what we can do together? I witnessed what humans can do alone. I am eager to see what we accomplish as partners. He watched a mixed unit practice boarding drills. Humans teaching aggressive entry tactics. Quillen teaching defensive positioning. Vren teaching sensor operation. Each species contributing their strengths. Each learning from the others. This was what he had hoped for. What his report had recommended. Not human dominance. Not replacement, partnership, alliance, combined strength greater than any single species. 3 weeks into his new assignment, the base received a distress call. Pirates attacking a colony ship. 20 minutes away. Heavy resistance expected. The combined unit deployed without hesitation. Humans led the assault teams. Quillen provided armor support. Vren operated sensors and communications. Solith engineers managed ship systems. Every species contributing. Every species essential. The rescue succeeded. The colony ship was saved. The pirates were defeated. 0 casualties among the defenders. In the after-action meeting, Trell listened to the unit review their performance. Humans praising Quillen defensive work. Quillen acknowledging human tactical decisions. Vren highlighting Solith engineering solutions. Everyone learning. Everyone improving. This was the future he had written about in his report. This was what humanity brought to the galaxy. Not conquest. Not domination. Strength used in service to others. Capability directed toward protection. Rodriguez found him after the meeting. Your report changed everything. Thank you for seeing past the fear. I did not change anything, Trell replied. I simply reported what I observed. Humanity was always capable of this. The Coalition just needed someone to explain it properly. Still, you took a risk. Contradicting 40 years of policy takes courage. You risk your lives protecting others. The least I could do was risk my career telling the truth. Trell looked at the mixed unit socializing together. Besides, I was not assigned to watch humans fight. I was assigned to witness what you truly are. And what are we? You are survivors who became warriors. Warriors who became protectors. Protectors who will change the galaxy for the better. That is what I witnessed. That is what my report said. And that is what history will remember. Rodriguez smiled. Then we'd better live up to it. You already have, Trell said. You already have.